If you're an entrepreneur, you know that feeling, right? That feeling of being completely stuck, paralyzed by a choice. Well, today, we're going to dive into a really practical framework to help you smash through that indecision and get your business moving again. And yeah, it's inspired by the command philosophy of Star Trek. So does this sound familiar? You're sitting there thinking, should I raise my prices or just play it safe and stay where I am? Or maybe it's, should I launch this new product or should I wait? These are the exact kinds of questions that can stop a creative business completely dead in its tracks. There's actually a name for this kind of paralysis. It's called decision drift. It's that awful cycle of overthinking, of waiting for the perfect moment that, let's be honest, never actually shows up, and then second-guessing yourself into doing nothing at all. It really is the silent killer of momentum, and today, we're here to fight it. And Captain Picard just framed this whole problem perfectly. He said, "It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose." See, the goal isn't to somehow avoid all mistakes. That's just impossible. The real mission here is to have a system, a process for making intentional decisions, even when you can't guarantee the outcome. So let's get into the system to fix this. It's called the Clarity in Action model, and I want you to think of it as your captain's playbook. It's a direct, step-by-step guide to pull you out of paralysis and get you back in command. And that's really the core idea. You are the captain of your business. Decision drift, that's what happens when you accidentally give up that role. This whole framework is about putting you firmly back in that captain's chair where you belong. Now, the real power of this model is its balance. It doesn't force you to choose between your head and your heart. It actually integrates them. So we use logic, the data, the facts, the strategy, and we combine it with our intuition, that gut feeling, your core values. Because the absolute best decisions always honor both. Okay, so here it is. This is the path out of the fog, broken down into 5 simple phases. We've got awareness, gather information, decide, plan, and execute. We're going to walk through each one. The key here is just to move through each stage intentionally. All right, let's dive into step 1, get aware. You can't solve a problem until you can name it, right? So this first step is all about getting totally crystal clear on the specific decision that has you feeling so stuck. So you start by asking yourself these questions. Seriously, what is actually bothering you? Why does this have to be dealt with right now? And maybe, most importantly, what outcome do you truly want? Just answering these can bring so much clarity so fast. So for example, that vague anxiety you feel about money, it becomes a concrete question. Should I raise my prices? The second you name it, you can start to unpack it. Are you really asking about your value, about your cash flow, about who your clients are? Naming it is the first real step out of that paralysis. Okay, next up, we're going to tackle steps 2 and 3 together. That's gathering information and then actually deciding. This is where we turn all that awareness into a real commitment. It's where we bridge that huge gap between knowing and doing. Now listen, here is the key. You gather just enough information, the logic, the data, the pros and cons, and then you stop. You have to stop. And then you check in with your gut. Your logic informs the options, but it's your intuition that points to the right choice for you. And hey, if you're still stuck, try these simple tests. First, is the decision reversible? Can it be undone? If it can, the risk is pretty low. Second, can you run a small pilot first just to get some real data? And finally, write your decision down. The physical act of writing it out creates commitment. It just moves you forward. And once you've made that call, that's it. You commit. This is your make it so moment. No more second guessing. You have your orders, you have a direction. Okay, on to the final 2 steps, 4 and 5, planning and executing. You've made your decision, now it's time to plot your course and turn that decision into reality. It's time to engage warp drive. And listen, forget the 50-page strategy document. All you need is a simple plan with, say, 3 to 5 clear, actionable steps. What is the very first domino that gets everything else moving? A simple plan that you actually start is infinitely better than a perfect one that you never, ever get to. And this right here, this might be the most critical part for breaking out of paralysis. Take the very first step within 24 hours. Don't wait until you feel ready. Confidence is not a requirement for taking action. It is a result of it. Momentum begins with movement. And remember, execution isn't a perfect performance. It's a feedback loop. The process is so simple. You start, you review the real data you get back, and then you adjust your course. You will learn so much more from 1 week of doing than you ever could from a month of just planning. So, you've got the 5 steps. But how do you make this a habit? How do you avoid falling back into that decision drift in the future? Well, it all comes down to remembering your role as the captain. Because here's the hard truth. If you don't make the decisions for your business, someone or something else absolutely will. The market, your clients, your competitors, they will all happily steer your ship for you. But the problem is, they don't know your destination. So here it is, your command toolkit, all boiled down. Use awareness to find clarity. Use logic to create structure. Use your intuition to make sure the decision is aligned with who you are. And use action to build real earned confidence. And please remember this. Being the captain doesn't mean having a map of the entire galaxy. It just means having the courage to decide on your next step, and then actually taking it. Progress over perfection, always. So I'll leave you with this one question. Thinking about that one decision, you know the one you've been avoiding, what is your next immediate move? You have your orders. Engage.